Regarding the robbery incident, I have a question. Your father involved in the robbery? My father? Yes, he is. Is he at home now? Yes, he's here. Would you like to speak with him? The police officer appeared puzzled by my tone momentarily before responding, yes, please. I led the police officer into the house. My father is right here. When the officer saw my father, he was visibly taken aback. Let me take you back a few months. My name is Joseph McCann, Sr. I recently secured a job at a major corporation. While I should feel relieved, there's still one thing I'm uncertain about: whether I should take over my father's business. He's the president of a local factory. As a child, I once dreamed of inheriting that factory and following in his footsteps. However, during my rebellious phase, I started feeling ashamed of him, always in work clothes, covered in grease. Even as I grew older, that feeling lingered in my heart. Through part-time jobs and growing up, I've come to respect my father's dedication, bearing the responsibility for many employees and their families. Yet I couldn't shake the idea that being an office worker in a suit might seem more appealing. While shopping with my father one day, we were unexpectedly called from behind. Austin. Both my father and I turned around to see a man who appeared to be about the same age as my father. Duncan. It's been ages. This Duncan, dressed in a sharp suit, seemed to be a high school classmate of my father's. He mentioned he was on sales calls for a well-known corporation. So, you took over the family business? Duncan asked my father. Yes, that's right. Still keeping it going, that small local factory, my father replied. Managing a place like that with just a high school diploma. Quite a step down, isn't it? Duncan's words caught me off guard. That local factory was founded by my grandfather, and my father took over as the second generation. I knew he stepped into it right after high school, but I never expected a classmate to mock it, my father reflected quietly. Did you manage to grow your father's local factory? Weren't you planning to take over and make it big back in high school? Duncan's smile remained fixed as he prodded my father. Well, no. Unfortunately, I didn't have the business acumen. That dream never materialized, my father admitted. Ah, that's so like you. Skilled with your hands but not so sharp in the head. But hey, at least you didn't run it into the ground, right? Duncan chuckled heartily, patting my father's shoulder. I've got to get back to work. See you at the next reunion. With that, he departed. My father, visibly unsettled by the encounter, muttered, "Shall we continue?" and began walking away. Tourism shopping. In that moment, I couldn't help feeling that my father's work, casually belittled without any defense from me, was being mocked. The decision between taking over his company or pursuing a position at a prestigious corporation now heavily leaned towards the latter. A few weeks later, my father's reunion took place. By coincidence, it was held at the restaurant where I worked part-time. The day was bustling, and initially, I managed to avoid serving the table where my father's reunion was seated. I thought myself fortunate, but eventually, the moment arrived. Bringing drinks to my father's gathering felt a bit awkward, but it was my duty. Our restaurant featured private booths exclusively. As I peeked into the spacious room designated for my father's group, he greeted me warmly near the entrance, saying, "Oh, Joseph. Is he your son?" A nearby woman inquired. My dad introduced me as his son, prompting me to politely respond, "Oh, nice to meet you. My father is in your care." As I placed the drinks on the table, I endured the inebriated classmates' remarks about how much I resembled my father or how serious I seemed, then made a hasty exit. From across the room, Duncan spotted us and called out, "Joseph, wasn't it? We just spoke the other day. Are you still planning to take over Austin's local factory?" When Duncan drunkenly questioned me, I responded with a mix of disdain and honesty, "No, I'm still weighing my options." Duncan then loudly advised, "Don't bother with it. Austin's company is nothing special. Joseph should aim for a position like mine instead of taking over that small-time business." He launched into a self-congratulatory tale of his career, but something felt amiss. He had claimed to be in sales during our last encounter, yet now he boasted about heading the accounting department. I sensed a discrepancy but chose to stay silent, wary of causing a scene. However, my father, influenced by alcohol, couldn't hold his tongue. "We just saw each other recently. Did you switch departments so soon? It's only been a few weeks. Quite a rapid promotion, eh? Sales didn't suit you." His words silenced Duncan, who stuttered in response. Yes, that's right. Sales wasn't my thing. I moved up to head the accounting department right after the switch. That's odd. I heard your company merged with a global enterprise, and the accounting functions moved overseas, didn't they? My father's observation revealed that Duncan's touted company had indeed merged into a global corporation. Others seemed aware of this but had refrained from commenting, leading to laughter at my father's remark. Hey Duncan, how's it going? Head of accounting at that merged company, right? My father's innocent question shattered Duncan's composure. Please, enough. I can't stay at this gathering. Embarrassed and frustrated, Duncan stormed out, his footsteps echoing loudly. I hope I didn't say something wrong, my father mused, concerned. Those around reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Duncan had always been sensitive. Seeing my father praised for his straightforwardness made me proud. Despite being a bit tipsy, he had the courage to voice what others struggled to articulate. It was admirable. 6 months passed. I continued grappling with the decision of whether to take over my father's company. The uncertainty weighed on me daily, leaving me increasingly confused. Then, one relaxing day at home, the doorbell rang. Since my mother wasn't home, I answered it. Yes. Hello, Mr. McCann, right? The visitor was a uniformed police officer. Startled, I replied nervously, yes, that's right, as worry crept in about what might be wrong. The officer said, I have some questions for your father regarding a robbery. Robbery? My father, I repeated, shocked. Yes, he's at home. Should I call him? Yes, he's here. Would you like to see him? My tone left the police officer momentarily puzzled, but he responded, yes, please. I pointed to this photograph on the altar. Here's my father, I explained. He passed away in a traffic accident. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss, the police officer said sympathetically. I asked him, who accused my father of robbery? I can't disclose that information. I apologize for the intrusion today. After expressing his regrets several times, the police officer departed. Who could have accused my father of robbery? I was frustrated, but soon found out. A few days later, I was at my father's local factory, now taking over since his passing. My mother had been helping out, but at over 50 years old and having limited experience with my father's work, it felt inadequate. It was up to me now. That's when Duncan burst in, demanding, Austin, come out. Give back what you stole. The factory's noise drowned out his words, but Duncan's voice cut through clearly, startling me. I wasn't the only one taken aback. The other workers paused in surprise as I addressed Duncan. My father isn't here. Then he's at home. Call him here. I've been robbed and I'm in trouble. Among the workers, I heard someone murmur, robbed the boss? Duncan, arms crossed, remained resolute, angrily insisting, bring out Aston. I confronted him. My father wouldn't steal from anyone. Are you sure there isn't a misunderstanding? No, it was Aston. He must have been jealous of my job at a big company and took my wallet. Fortunately, I didn't have it on me, but it's unacceptable that he robbed me. The police are useless, so I came here myself. Let me talk to Aston. Oh, when did this robbery supposedly happen? About 2 weeks ago, Duncan replied hesitantly, sparking murmurs among the workers. He seemed taken aback by their reaction. When I pressed him, it really was 2 weeks ago. Duncan's temper flared at my persistence. He shouted, what's the matter with you? Why do you keep questioning me? I already told you it was 2 weeks ago. I and Elite came all the way to this small, greasy local factory. Let me see Austin now. Duncan's outburst ignited a surge of heat in my chest. Enduring his disdain for my father's work and his employees at their workplace was tough enough, but accusing my deceased father of robbery was unbearable. He passed away in a traffic accident a month ago, so he can't be here, I informed Duncan. His face registered surprise. What? I pressed on. How could my father, who died a month ago, commit robbery? Are you sure you were actually robbed? I had learned at a recent class reunion that Duncan was prone to lying. Moreover, classmates revealed that Duncan had harbored a pointless rivalry with my father since their school days, fueled by unrequited affection from a girl who admired my father. I could have forgiven Duncan for trying to implicate my father in a crime based on such a petty rivalry. So, are you suggesting he committed robbery just before he died? Just as I was about to confront Duncan, who persisted in his accusations, a voice from another direction shouted, "The boss would never do such a thing. He's a very serious person." That's right. The reason we're always short-staffed is because the boss teaches us skills and encourages us to be independent. He always prioritizes his employees and clients over profits. He was a good person. The voices defending my father echoed, causing Duncan to falter. Their praise deeply moved me. I felt ashamed for ever thinking my father's work was embarrassing. He was a boss respected by his employees and loved enough for them to defend him even in this situation. Tears welled up in Duncan's eyes as more voices in support of my father echoed through the factory. I delivered the final blow. I will definitely bring this to the police, accusing my father falsely. With that, Duncan let out a cry and rushed out of the factory. Following that, I went to the police to report Duncan's attempt to frame my father. As I had promised, the evidence included Duncan's statement, recorded on a mobile phone by one of the thoughtful employees. The police acted swiftly upon receiving the evidence, and Duncan was apprehended shortly thereafter. Duncan's attempt to frame someone with false charges landed him behind bars for a while. He had mocked my father while he was alive and continued to slander him even after his passing. I found some solace in thinking that he deserved the consequences. A few days later, a woman claiming to be Duncan's wife visited to apologize to my mother and me. When I asked if Duncan's vendetta against my father stemmed from the reunion incident, Duncan's wife sighed and confirmed, "Yes, that's right. It seems it struck a nerve. The reunion triggered it." It turned out Duncan had once been a high achiever but had lost his job and struggled to find new employment. Meeting my father seemed to trigger something in him. Duncan's obsession with status led him to fabricate stories which unraveled when he drank and contradicted himself, ultimately embarrassing him. In his rage, Duncan decided to scapegoat my father, I said, stunned by the absurdity of it all. Duncan's wife shared my disbelief and revealed she intended to divorce him. Without children, Duncan faced a lonely future, even if he were to be released from jail. After graduating from college, I made the decision to take over my father's company. With my father recently passed away, I felt apprehensive about managing the business. However, the memory of the employees defending my father when Duncan falsely accused him stayed with me. It inspired me to strive to be a boss who earns the love and respect of my team, a lesson I deeply internalized. While my background in business school prepared me for the managerial aspects my father handled, I relied on the staff to teach me the technical aspects they were experts in. Their response was always supportive. "We'll teach you everything you need to know," as the boss's son. They willingly shared memories of my father, each story highlighting his remarkable character. "Dad, you were truly amazing. I regret not realizing it sooner while you were with us. I'm sincerely sorry," I murmured to his picture stained with oil after a day's work. I felt ashamed of ever considering his work uncool. These days were a testament to his dedication and hard work. "I'll strive to become a boss like you, Dad. I'll work tirelessly to make your dream a reality." I spoke to his picture, feeling as though my father was smiling back at me. My goal is to honor my father's legacy by expanding our local factory, a family business since my grandfather's era. I'm determined to carry on his vision. Returning home one day, I was stunned to find my room barren. "What's happening here?" I exclaimed. Behind me, my sister-in-law's voice cut through the silence, filled with a sense of victory. "You, a childless, unproductive woman, are nothing but an obstacle in my path. Leave." Her words dripped with malice as she attempted to usurp my parents' home. The notion was absurd. After all, I was single. "I'll unravel your devious plan," I vowed. My name is Catherine, a 40-year-old office worker navigating life's twists and turns. Though I've encountered potential partners, circumstances led me down the path of singlehood. Despite occasional bouts of loneliness, I've made peace with it. Marriage isn't the be-all and end-all. Besides, there's the responsibility of caring for my parents. With my older brother living afar, I took it upon myself to support our aging mother after her father's passing. Now, it's just the two of us, relishing the tranquility of our days together. Despite my mother's sharp mind, a year ago she suffered a leg injury, leaving her disabled. Now reliant on a cane, car, or wheelchair for mobility, she struggles even within the confines of our home, requiring constant care. Fortunately, being single and able to reside with her, I've been able to meet her needs. Were I married and living elsewhere or far away, the situation would be far more challenging. So I suppose my single status has its advantages. Yet while I've found contentment in my life, there's one who's discontented. My sister-in-law. Much younger than me, she married my older brother, making her, despite her status, my junior. They live distantly but return for holidays like Christmas and summer vacations. Whenever my brother's family visits, my sister-in-law seems to reserve her harshest words for me. This past Christmas was no exception. As they arrived, she wasted no time in whispering in my ear, "Still living off your parents, Catherine." Shocked, I retorted, "I'm not mooching off anyone. Just because I'm single and living at home at 40 doesn't make me a parasite." She scoffed. "Oh, really? Well, I'm raising 3 children. Can you even comprehend the responsibility? What's your point? The state's population is declining, isn't it? Our family is doing its part to reverse that trend. Singles like you are the problem," she sneered. "Do you take pleasure in population decline? Is life even worth it if you're single forever?" Her words stung. They struck a chord deep within me. Despite being single for various reasons, there was once a man I hoped to marry, but there were complications with my health. I'm unable to have children. When he asked me to be in a relationship, he knew this from the start, and I was transparent about it. He reassured me, "I just want to be with you, even if we can't have kids. As long as we're together, I'll be happy." So I agreed to date him, but marriage brought unforeseen complexities. The challenges and conflicts we faced led me to remain single. My sister-in-law's hurtful words left me speechless, yet she had the audacity to exploit me financially. "We have 3 kids, remember? Your Christmas gifts should reflect that. We expect generosity. You should contribute to our kids' kindergarten enrollment celebration, at least $1,000. You're not strapped for cash, auntie, so don't act like it. Don't you want to give our kids a good education? I'll let you help raise them, so pitch in for their extracurricular activities." It's as if she believes using the kids as leverage will justify her demands for more money. I don't mind giving gifts for special occasions, but I fail to comprehend why I have to endure her disapproving sighs as she inspects the cash in the envelope right then and there. Then why am I expected to foot the bill for their extracurricular activities? When I mention it to my mom or brother, they react with disbelief, unable to fathom such audacity from my sister-in-law because they've never witnessed it. That's the thing. Behavior only surfaces when we're alone. She's quite cunning. During the recent New Year's holiday, she wasted no time opening the gifts I gave to my nephew and niece while my brother stepped out briefly to assist my mom. With a disdainful tone, she remarked, "Is this all? Your gift is quite meager. How destitute are you, you tightwad?" It's yet another instance that my mom and brother struggle to believe. I've contemplated recording her behavior, but the potential fallout on family dynamics holds me back. I can't risk damaging relationships. After all, my mom cherishes her 3 grandkids dearly. If my grievances lead to my sister-in-law avoiding visits, it would deprive my mom of precious time with her grandchildren. That would be heartbreaking for her, so I opt to stay silent. If I can simply brush off her hurtful comments, perhaps things will calm down. That's what I believed until circumstances took a sharp turn. One weekday, my sister paid a visit. With my brother at work and me working from home, it was just the 2 of us. My mom was at a senior daycare center, the kids were at daycare, and they were due to visit their maternal grandparents afterward. In this rare moment, my sister-in-law came to see me alone. I was puzzled by her unexpected visit on an unusual day, but she wasted no time getting to the point. "I think we should move in here," she declared. I was taken aback. What could she possibly mean by that? "Move in," I echoed, seeking clarification. "Exactly. Our family has been considering it," she confirmed. "By our family, you mean?" I trailed off, trying to wrap my head around the idea. "My husband, our kids, and me," she clarified. "Here, in this house?" I asked, incredulous. "Yes, because I'm pregnant with our 4th child." I couldn't believe it. With 3 kids already, 1 in elementary school, another in kindergarten, and the youngest just starting preschool, they were expecting a 4th. It was impressive, but they currently lived near her parents, who likely provided support as they were doing today. So, I couldn't help but wonder, what would be the advantage of moving here? "John's getting transferred here. That's the scoop," she revealed. John, my brother, now I recall him mentioning this. "Seems there's a plan to open a branch office right here in our hometown. Who's eager for a branch office gig?" I asked. "John, apparently," she replied. He had volunteered for the position with enthusiasm. It made me wonder how personnel decisions could be so casually made. "Are you okay with this, sis? Wouldn't it be better to stay closer to Mom and Dad?" she inquired. "Mom and Dad are still working, so I can't lean on them too much." They start to fret if I ask too often, lecturing me with check with your husband first or stop delaying parenthood, assuming parents are the ultimate fallback. Mentioning a fourth child would just add to the stress. Fair enough, that's your call. I'm not in the loop, I responded. I could empathize with your parents' viewpoint. My brother mentioned how he takes on household chores after work, cleaning, laundry, and even cooking dinner. My sister-in-law confirmed it. It's true. Despite his work fatigue, my brother has always been considerate and helpful. Maybe that's why he seemed worn out whenever I saw him. Still, isn't expanding the family a bit daring? I questioned. Life is a blessing, a joyous occasion, she countered. I'm not one to say, stop having kids. But why the move to our place? My confusion must have been evident. My sister-in-law explained. Dealing with my parents is a hassle, and our current location is too isolated and inconvenient. Instead of leaving John to fend for himself here, we thought it'd be better for all of us to move in together. Well, there are plenty of daycare options around here, right? So, Catherine, could you please find a place of your own soon? My sister-in-law's words left me dumbfounded. What on earth was she suggesting? I'm about moving in. Let's discuss that with my mom and brother. But why should I be the one to leave? Think about it. We'll soon be a family of 6, right? I reasoned. That's true, she conceded. So won't this house be too cramped? I continued. Well, I suppose, she reluctantly agreed. Then why are you telling me to leave? I pressed. I don't understand. Yes, 6 people is a lot, but 8 of us, including my mom and me, can manage living together. Sure, when the kids grow up, sharing individual rooms may become necessary, but worrying about that seems premature. Growing increasingly frustrated by my confusion, my sister-in-law raised her voice. Look, you're in the way. You're childless and getting older. For our sake, move out, and don't go too far. You'll still need to help with the kids, she demanded. After her tirade, she abruptly left, urging me to vacate the premises soon. We need to have a family meeting. That evening, I briefed my mom on Susan's remarks and dialed my brother. His response caught me off guard. I've arranged a separate house for my family, he disclosed. Sure, I've been traveling a lot for work, and I know it's been hard on Susan. But is she really that unhappy in the countryside? His confusion was palpable over the phone. There was still something unclear. Despite this, Susan's plan to move in with us was seemingly put on hold, or so I thought. After a long stretch of working from home, I returned to the office one day. My mom was staying overnight at the daycare, worn out from work. When I got back home, I was met with a shock. What? My room? Completely empty. It felt surreal. Where had all my belongings gone? I got rid of them. All of them. Susan's voice startled me from behind. Turning around, there she was. Susan, what are you doing here? I exclaimed. Shh, you'll wake the kids, she hushed me. What kids? You'll wake the kids? What kids? I questioned, bewildered. The 3 kids are here until the beds arrive tomorrow. They're sleeping on the living room couch, Susan explained. Rushing into the living room, I found my nephews and niece fast asleep. What's happening? I demanded, still trying to process the situation. Susan, looking amused and somewhat speechless, chuckled. You wouldn't budge, so I had to resort to drastic measures. I'm not leaving. I've already discussed this with my brother. Do you think you can just do as you please? Do you realize how many people you're inconveniencing? I retorted. Who's the one doing as they please here? I'm the one inconvenienced. I wanted to snap back, but I held my tongue, mindful of the sleeping children. Susan, however, disregarded my restraint and declared loudly, Who cares what your mother or brother says? If you move out and our family moves in, they wouldn't object. That's for sure. What? Where's all my stuff? I exclaimed, bewildered. I had a junk removal service take it all away. Susan replied casually. No way. You got rid of everything, even my photo albums. This is unbelievable, I protested. Come on, if you understand, then leave. Susan insisted. What? Hold on. Let's not argue. I resisted, but she easily overpowered me and ejected me from the house. It was nighttime, and causing a scene wouldn't help. She ignored the doorbell and my calls. With no other option, I spent the night at a budget hotel. The next day, I took a day off from work and hurried home. As I reached for the door, Susan emerged. Oh, Susan, I exclaimed, trying to reach my brother, but to no avail. Let's talk anyway. My husband is on a long business trip abroad, and the time difference makes it hard to reach him. You know I was on my way out, so make sure you take care of my kids." With Susan's abrupt departure leaving me stunned, I had no choice but to look after the 3 children. When my mom returned home that evening, I greeted her with a bitter expression. "Mom, isn't this a bit too much? It's certainly excessive to disregard John's input and act so assertively. Leaving the kids behind and going out is unbelievable. If she needed to leave them with someone, her own parents would have been the logical choice." I concurred with my mother. "And what are the actual advantages of living here? Plus, she went out all dressed up. There might be a clue in that," I added, pondering. In agreement with my mother's assessment, I promptly enlisted the services of a private investigator. A month later, I found myself in a hurried search for a 1-bedroom apartment as temporary accommodation. Susan had completely redesigned my room in my parents' house, rendering it unrecognizable. John was livid, admonishing her, "You can't just do whatever you want." But she seemed to argue that moving in would be better than their current residence. She also made comments like, "You're often away for work, right?" I thought it'd be nice for the family to stay together, so I tagged along. Raising children is truly challenging. It's only natural to live close to family and seek their assistance, he reasoned. When he mentioned that my mother required care, Susan retorted, "Catherine does, doesn't she? She's always at home. She must have plenty of free time." "I'm not just sitting around. I'm actually working from home." I defended myself, but Susan remained resolute about not allowing me back into the house. "You can't think you'll get away with this forever. We need to talk," I asserted, lacking support from my brother, prompting a family meeting. "Why the sudden urgency? I'm pregnant. Let's make this quick, okay?" Susan grumbled, though her belly showed no visible signs yet. Disregarding her complaint, the 4 of us, my brother, Mom, Susan, and I, gathered in the living room. "By the way, we've left the kids at a weekend daycare. Susan, first off, please apologize for disposing of my belongings without my consent," I requested. But Susan scoffed at my words. "It's your own fault for not leaving sooner." Without hesitation, she added, "People like you, who can't even have kids, should just live in a rundown apartment." "Yes, it's true I can't have kids, but I was living here for Mom's sake," I countered. "But your mother-in-law would enjoy living with her grandkids more than with you," Susan asserted, glancing at my mom. Mom replied diplomatically, "Living with my grandkids would certainly bring me joy." However, Susan cut her off with a triumphant smirk. "See, it's more meaningful for us to live together than with an unproductive person like you." Ignoring Susan's taunt, Mom continued, "If they were my real grandchildren." "Ha!" Susan was bewildered, not grasping my mom's implication. Suddenly, my brother produced a large envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "The findings of your affair investigation," my brother revealed calmly. "Ha!" Susan looked surprised, staring at my brother, who continued unfazed. "You didn't think we'd find out, did you?" "What are you talking about? I never cheated on you," Susan protested. "Really? So these pictures are all fake, then?" my brother retorted, spreading several photos on the table. Among them, "Wait, no," Susan exclaimed, recognizing herself in compromising situations with another man. "I found it odd when you insisted we move away from our parents who were helping with the kids to live here. Sure, the city offers more convenience, but you're not even utilizing childcare services and are relying on Catherine for childcare, aren't you?" "Well, I need a break too. Why not use childcare services like today? It's a waste of money. Do you think I haven't given you enough money? I'm saving up for our future," you defended. "What's the point when our bank account is empty?" John interjected, presenting the bank book, which indeed showed a balance of 0. "Hey, why are you brushing this off? It's our family's money. I have every right to check. So where's the savings for our future?" Well, it's in a different account," you stammered. "Oh, really? Let's see that bank book then." "I don't have it with me." "Where is it?" John pressed further. "Well, Susan hesitated, her lies becoming increasingly apparent. Despite the moderate temperature, sweat formed on her forehead. "Maybe it's in the attic," she finally mumbled. John slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. No more lies. Can you still justify yourself in light of this evidence?" he demanded, pointing to a photo. "Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake," Susan confessed, her composure slipping. "You've been having an affair with this man since we got married, haven't you?" John accused. "The guy confessed to me," Susan protested. What? Why were you talking to him? He has a family too. He only confessed to me under the condition that I wouldn't tell his wife, John exclaimed. What? He betrayed me, Susan exclaimed in disbelief. The one who betrayed us is you. Susan seemed flustered under John's intense glare. Eventually, she regained her composure, the sweat dissipating. Well, I regret the affair. It won't happen again, I promise. But I think it's best not to divorce. It's not good for the kids to be without their mother, and besides, I'm carrying a new life. You wouldn't want to be separated from your own child, would you? Turning to me, Susan continued, you can't expect grandchildren from a childless daughter. And if I take the kids and leave after the divorce, you'll never see your grandkids again. Is that what you want, mother-in-law? She laughed triumphantly at our silence. See? Exactly. Useless old woman, just a nuisance. It's only natural for her to leave. Susan stumped around, visibly agitated. Then, unexpectedly, my mother spoke up calmly. Well, you who are completely unproductive to me should also leave with your child. Huh? Susan's smile faltered as she looked at my mother in confusion. John then handed her a document. What's this? She asked, puzzled. Huh? DNA test results. Negative. Susan exclaimed in disbelief. What is this? She demanded. It's the result of a DNA test between me and the kids. When did you? John began. That's none of your business. Anyway, the results speak for themselves. None of them are mine. And here are the results confirming your affair, meaning they are indeed your kids, John interrupted, handing her the document. What? Huh? My kids aren't mine, Susan gasped, meaning they're not my mother's grandchildren. They're complete strangers. I added, stunned by the revelation. No, it can't be true. You're lying. You knew about this, didn't you? You orchestrated this. Susan accused, her voice rising in panic. I didn't. That's what the other guy said, John protested. You told him it's sad that our children can't live together as a family, I interjected, shocked by the revelation. Susan looked as though she might faint any moment, her face drained of color. Then my mom delivered the final blow. So, you're a burden because you can't bear my son's children. Please pack up and leave with the kids and hurry. What? Are you going to throw us out onto the street? These young kids, you monster. Susan cried out, attempting to garner sympathy. The real monster is you. Another voice boomed through the room, causing Susan to whirl around, eyes wide with shock. Dad, why are you here? And Mom too. Standing before us were Susan's actual parents. They've agreed to take all the children once I explain the situation, my dad explained. You foolish daughter. Can there be anything more shameful for a parent to hear? Susan's father's stern words caused her face to pale even further as she sobbed. John, Catherine, I apologize deeply for my daughter's foolishness. We will make sure she faces the consequences, Susan's mother added. Consequences? Hold on, I can't afford that. Susan protested. Will you cover for me, Dad? She pleaded. No way. I'll lend you the money, but you're paying me back even if it takes you a lifetime, her father declared sternly. With that, her father whisked Susan, who was on the verge of tears, away without waiting for a response. Her mother, repeatedly bowing deeply in apology, left a lasting impression. Despite being good parents, they had raised such a daughter. Raising kids is tough, huh? I remarked lightheartedly. Later on, my brother John smoothly went through with the divorce. Her parents cleared the alimony and her expenses from the affair in one go. The kids went back to their grandparents' home. They've been there before, so they're adjusting fine without any confusion. They didn't do anything wrong, John, who had always believed they were his biological children, said with a hint of sadness. It's hard to accept that they're suddenly not yours. I hope John's wounds heal one day, I mused. 3 years later, John found a great partner and had a child of his own. But that's another story. As for Susan, she had her 4th child, and when she tested for paternity, it confirmed it wasn't John's. Under strict supervision from her parents, she worked tirelessly, but she continued her affair. Eventually, her infidelity was exposed to her lover's wife, leading to a major confrontation. After the intense altercation, Susan faced more alimony payments, and it appeared she was ejected from her parents' home. Her whereabouts remained a mystery thereafter. As for me, I continued to lead a tranquil life, caring for my mother as always. Remarkably, all the belongings she disposed of were swiftly recovered by contacting the waste disposal company on the same day. On one such serene day, a familiar face greeted me unexpectedly. It had been quite some time. Before me stood the man I had once envisioned marrying. I couldn't forget about you, and I've remained single all this time. Even my parents have relented, albeit for a somewhat selfish reason. With my brother now married and having a child, they've told me I'm free to pursue marriage as I please, he confessed, a gentle smile adorning his face. Caught off guard, he presented me with a ring. It may be belated, but I can't imagine being with anyone else. I want to support you in caring for your mother. So will you marry me? Overwhelmed, tears welled up in my eyes. Without hesitation, I embraced him tightly, his tender smile